Hello, and welcome to Sobercast, where we provide AA speaker meetings and workshops in podcast format. We're an ad-free podcast, and if you enjoy listening, please help us be self-supporting by visiting Sobercast.com, look for the donate link, and drop $1 or $2 into our virtual basket. We hope you enjoy the podcast. Have a great day.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Road to Recovery group of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Jeff, and I'm an alcoholic. Would everyone please turn off your mobile phones or switch them to a silent profile, and please try and keep disruptions to a minimum. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. In view of support of AA singleness of purpose, we respectfully ask that sharing be confined to alcoholics. And when discussing our problems, we confine ourselves to those problems as they relate to alcoholism. There may be visitors here who are unfamiliar with our tradition of anonymity. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio and television. This tradition is a constant reminder that personal ambition has no place in AA. We are sure that the anonymity is the greatest safeguard AA can ever have. We therefore seek your cooperation in protecting the anonymity of our members at the public level. The format of tonight's meeting will be 3 10-minute speakers, followed by a fourth speaker until approximately 8:30. The meeting will then be opened from the floor and closed at 9 o'clock. Can we please have a moment's silence to remember tradition 5? Each group has but one primary purpose, to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. Thank you to our first 3 speakers. I would now like to introduce tonight's final speaker, Gail.
Hi everyone, my name's Gail, I'm an alcoholic. Thank you, Mark, for asking me to share. It's always a privilege and an honour to share at my home group because, as I say, when I came in, I had nothing useful to say, nothing that anybody would have wanted to listen to. And today, through the practice and principles of the 12-step program, continuous sponsorship, and my home group, to whom I cleave, so closely, I found a way of living sober, which is just beyond remarkable, considering the alcoholic that I am. My sobriety date is the 1st of April Fool's Day, 1998. So I was 20 on Easter Sunday this year, and I am so humbled and so grateful by that, because I've only done this one day at a time, just as anyone else has, but I have also done it only with the help of my sponsor, my home group, and the old timers who've always been there for me, always guided me. And, even quite recently, the guys here were talking about it. It's easy sometimes to take your foot off the gas, even if not consciously. And I have never thought I don't need AA. I've always known I need AA. I've always known I need sponsorship. And I've always known I need this program and my home group. Yet, as I say, not so long ago, there was a time when things sort of got on top of me, work and that sort of thing. And my sponsor and sponsor needed to have a strong word. And when they have a strong word, they have a strong word, if you know Mary. And basically, as I say, I needed to be here, but they love me enough. This home group is so good at just saying, you need to get back on this now. If you drift off into that long grass that John talks about, it is so simple to just keep walking without actually, it is so subtle that it's upon you before, or upon me before I know. And so thank God, I had people in this group who cared enough to just say, you need to do this. And although I was doing all the suggestions and the other things, it was just like one meeting. It's not okay. It's not okay for me. So when I came 20 years, it's just, I'm just, as I said, so blessed. It just seems such an enormous amount of time, yet it seems like yesterday. There came a point at the end of March in 1998 where I was ruining my daughter's lives, my family life. I was leaving my young children to drink drive, to go down our little road and to the off licence to just get something else to help me through the evening before my husband came home. And Mike Dawson talks about it. There just came a point one day, for nothing I can say other than divine intervention, that the drinking hadn't been worse, the hangover wasn't worse, and I just woke up to this dark, complete black hole and knew I was done, knew it was over. And unless I did something, I just knew I would die. And I phoned a family friend, a GP, and she said to me afterwards, she said, I didn't think you were going to make 20 days, let alone 20 weeks, when you came in. Now, recovery starts here. It is the place, our home group is the best in the world, as other people have said. It really is. And it's given me everything I've got today in terms of being able to cope with things, the structure, the discipline, the way we help each other. And when I came in here, I just knew I wanted this with every fibre of my being. And I feel very lucky that I had, I believe, step one at that point. And Pat talked about it last week, so I'm not talking particularly about treatment, but that was my journey into here. I went into treatment, and I actually happened to go into the same treatment centre as Pat went. And there was a programme about them on television a couple of weeks ago. And one of the things that I had to be taken away basically from my children. It wasn't any court order or anything, but really for me and for them, that I should allow them time to recover, if you like. And the first thing the counsellor said was to the house as a whole, he said, you are not in recovery, you are in treatment. We tell you when to get up, we tell you when to go to bed, we tell you when to eat, we tell you when to go to group. Recovery starts when you walk out of those gates and you make the decision that you will go to meetings, you will find a sponsor and go through a 12-step program, find yourself a home group, and you will do this day after day after day. If you want sobriety, that is recovery, we're treatment. And I knew at that point I desperately wanted, and Dave K talks about, that his sponsor said, be the one. And that is genuinely what I wanted to be. And for family reasons, I actually had to leave treatment early, very briefly, to go home for a family thing. And I'm so, so grateful that happened to me, because the last things they said to me in the counsellor was, get to meetings. And I was terrified at that point, because I'd only been dry a few days, that I was going to drink. So I found a meeting. And thank God, because Mike D was there, Andy J was there, and Martin, who is no longer with us. And I have never in my life heard people talk the way these guys talked. I didn't know, they hadn't been long in recovery, and they were enthusiastic, and they were saying you could be sober, you could be happy, you could live this wonderful life. And I was blown away. I mean, normal people don't talk like that. Normal people are sort of, yeah, it's pretty good, it's okay. But these guys were literally on fire. And also there, although I didn't know it at the time, was the person who's going to be my sponsor. And I came away from there and absolutely full of hope that if these guys could do this, this is what I wanted when I came out. And so I did the time there, but it was a 12-step program, so I was very, very lucky. But when I came here, I knew this was real living. I knew that whatever happened there wasn't it. It was a term of dry safety. And I remember saying to the counsellor 2 or 3 days in, when my sort of head had cleared a bit, I need to go home now. My children will miss me. They'll be really worried about me. And he said to me, he was the first person I genuinely believe who was genuinely honest with me. And he said, have you ever thought that your children might be having the first safe nights of their young lives for quite some time because they don't have to worry about you? And it hit me between the eyes like a rock. And I knew instinctively he was telling me the truth. And that's the first time I ever got any degree of honesty, real honesty in my life. And I knew he was right. So when I came out, the first thing I needed to do was get a home group and find a sponsor. And I'm so grateful that, through a set of circumstances and people, I found this home group and I got a sponsor. And you guys all said the same thing, that if I wanted this program, if I wanted recovery, if I wanted happy sobriety, not just awful dry days, which were few and far between for me because I wasn't good at even having dry time, then I needed to do what you'd done. But you made me promises. You said these promises are in the basic text of Alcoholics Anonymous. They're through the 12-step program. You work with us to do this, and you can have this. Now, the guys that were here when I first came in are still here. There are a handful of them. And I'm so grateful, and it's not just, lip service. I am so grateful to Wayne and to Alexis for starting this group, because I needed something that had that depth and weight that they talk about, because it's only that interest that can define an alcoholic and keep them interested. Because that frothy emotion appeal they talk about, people had tried all their lives and I just wasn't interested. I'd either play it or I would say, yeah, and think they don't mean me. But when I got here, you told me I had this allergy to alcohol. I was physically allergic to alcohol. And created this obsession with it that no matter what I thought, I had to have it. And, one drink too many, 1,000 never enough. And that was really true for me because, the places I sort of got into, the scrapes I got into, I just, goodness me. But I always got tricked into thinking it'd be okay next time. And the worst thing was that when I stopped or tried to live differently, I just felt so much worse, that it wasn't worth living like that. It was painful. It was injurious to me and to others, and I would start again. And, I felt, Clancy talked about it in one of his shares, that his parents split up and it was unusual in those days, and he thought, that's it, it's their fault, I'm going to blame them. And I did exactly the same thing. And of course it's absolute nonsense, because far worse things happen to many, many people, and they don't behave like that. And it was my crutch, and I was the one, like Jackie says, I was sitting at school looking out of the window, gazing and dreaming about going here, there or everywhere, anything other than school. And it soon became a part of my life. And I say my parents never had very much booze in the house, but once it was only my dad, there, I just took what was in there and got drunk and thought, I want to do that again. I was ill, didn't matter. And then this phenomenon of craving started quite early, where I just thought, I've got to do this weekend, I've got to do it, I've got to go out. And I was restless, irritable and discontent. I did manage through life to get some really good opportunities, and I'm so grateful for those. A lot of them are screwed up because, again, as it says in the big book, it didn't matter what I was heading towards, what was so important, exams or meetings or whatever. The time and the place would come just before, and I think, well, I'll just have that little drink, because it'll make me feel better. Well, of course, there's no such thing to me as a little drink. It just doesn't happen. And before I knew where I was, I'd missed the deadline, missed the meeting, missed the exam, or failed the exam. but I did manage to get a career that I deeply love, and that again is divine intervention to me. And so I crawled into Alcoholics Anonymous, and I just said, help me. The God question didn't bother me at all. I'd been going to church for quite some years. I used to go to St. Andrew's with the girls and my then husband, and it was so, when we started having our birthday dinner at St. Andrew's and then went up to the Preston room, it just was so symbolic to me, and I felt, I can't tell you the feeling, because when this group was set up in 94, at that time I was going to the church, but also in the summer holidays I was part of the groups that would run the holiday club, and we would be all over that church doing different things with young people, and one of them was the Preston room, and to think that that was going on and I still had 4 years of hell left in me. Just today, I just sit there and think, thank God, but I didn't know that wonderful thing was going on upstairs when I was downstairs seeking, I don't know what. But what I was seeking was some way out of this misery and this awful way of living. And I didn't know until I came in that this wasn't about alcohol. This was about my inability to live life on life's terms, to accept what other people do naturally. As Jack said, like his girlfriend, I saw people being kind and considerate and caring, and I tried to do all that, but it didn't always work. And then Mark always makes me laugh because he says, and Nick I think it is, that he always lets that first person out in the mornings in the car. And I tried that. And I'm normally coming home from night duty, so I let them out. And then it's, don't you have a modicum of manners? Thank you, costs nothing. And I just think that's not how it's meant to be. And suffice it to say, with my driving, Wayne's only let me give him a lift once. And I have tried to improve that. But those sort of things were just not in my nature, and I came and I learnt. It doesn't matter what age you come in, I needed to learn, and that meant I became sponsorable. I did the suggestions that I was given. I got a basic text of Alcoholics Anonymous. I studied the doctor's opinion, which told me who and what I was and how these conditions had come about, and how, if I was lucky and did these things. When I say lucky, I'm talking about willing to listen and do these things, because so many come in and think they can rearrange it, do half, and still get away with it. It doesn't happen. And I was to get on my knees in the morning and pray for a sober day, which for me was miraculous, and to pray at night for having had a sober day. And again, that was miraculous because I just simply didn't before I got here. To write a gratitude list, and my gratitude list today is, I think, like John, it's books and books and books and books. And I am just so grateful that I can get grateful. I mean, I was out today in Plymouth and, with the dogs, and it all went well until I lost the car key. But just being able to enjoy that time and not feel all screwed up and scrunched up inside because I needed that drink, I needed that certain release that would come with that first drink, and just enjoying everything that was around me. And then getting a home group and making myself accountable to that home group. Now, in this home group, the structure and discipline will dictate that. If we don't do our service properly, we will be told, and that's happened to people, it's happened to me. And when I first came in, we still had people smoking, so we used to put out ashtrays and saucers in the group. Then we'd go out and collect all the cigarette butts at the end of the meeting. Auntie Jerem was in, he did tea, and he insisted on knowing what everybody had: black, white, coffee, tea, sugar, and that was a little benchmark for everyone else to want to better that. So these things created a group that I could fit into, but only if I was willing to put in what you guys had put in. And the group's changed over the years. of course it has, it's grown, it's ebbed, it's flowed, and it's irrelevant. My sponsor has always said to me, get yourself to your meeting, sit on your seat, take your place, and share for the newcomer. And for me, I know it's the only thing to do, because if you guys hadn't been here when I needed you so desperately, and I had gone fairly far down. I mean, the only reason I didn't end up on the streets is because I was blessed to have people around me who actually looked after me. But they couldn't stop. They couldn't stop what was happening to me, and I didn't understand it any more than they did. But as the consequences got worse, I still didn't have that ability to call a halt to it. But when I got here, you gave me the key. I needed to have step one, admit I was powerless over alcohol, and that my life was unmanageable. The unmanageability was that no matter what I promised, what I thought, I would take that drink again. My life was sort of fairly cobbled together, but I had that awful fear around life. I mean, taking children to school, if someone came to the door, I'd dive behind the sofa. All these irrational things which were so real in my head, and the only thing that would fix it. And then you just said to me, you're a bog standard alcoholic. We're all the same. We can't live life on life's terms unless we have this spiritual awakening, this psychic change by doing these 12 steps. Be prepared to make amends. Admit that there's a higher power that is greater than you. And to me, it is God. Without a shadow of a doubt, it is God. But it's irrelevant. No one cares what your higher power is, as long as you've got one and don't think you're it. And then when I've given myself, I choose, I made that decision. It says very, very strongly in step 3, made a decision. No one forced me. No one can force an alcoholic to do anything. But I made that decision to hand my will and my life over to the care of God. And then I made that list of step 4, all my defects of character. My goodness, enough, go on. And I just saw for the first time I was the maker of not only my misery, but the misery of people, everyone around me I loved. Not deliberately, but it was always going to happen. And the only way I could clear my side of the street was to be full and thorough with it, totally honest in a way I'd never really known honesty before. Put down my defects of character, my pride, my jealousy, my arrogance, everything, my dishonesty, and then share it with my sponsor and God as I understood them. And that weight that lifted, that rucksack that had been on my back for so many, many years was lifted. And of course, I was always going to make mistakes and have my defects. But in 6 and 7, it said that, if we honestly pray to have those removed, then they can be manageable. They can be right-sized. And if they get out of control again, then you've got a sponsor, you've got old-timers who will tell you, trust me. And then innate, which is your step 4, first column, you make amends. You write a list of people that you need to make amends to. And I was still beaten enough, so I never sort of said, this I won't do. I knew I needed to. And in step 9, that's what I did. I went out. Some I couldn't make amends to, like my father. He'd already died. But I wrote a letter and read it out to my sponsor. And I was able to make amends to my mother, who'd been worried sick for years and years. And to my daughters, which is a great blessing. I mean, my eldest daughter still just this isn't happening to her. The only thing she allowed me to do was make amends to her. And however, anyone takes those amends, it is entirely up to them. It's my job to make sure that I try to make those amends and then just show them that I'm not going to behave like that, because I don't behave like that anymore. Today, I live in a completely different world where she can trust me. My grandchildren never see me drunk. And, we do have one life, both the children, and I've got a career that I'm truly blessed to do. But at the end of this, if I'm not sharing back, if I'm not doing my step 10s and looking at my part in everyday life, and maybe at work I just need to nip into the loo or close my eyes, just to, God help me, that person's just going to get it. I've got to see my part in it all the time. And then through prayer and meditation, now for me, a large part, and this is only me, one of the things that has helped me really significantly is when we had our lovely days going to Buckfast, is that Buckfast Liz being able to, I just decided I'd read the Modern Bible, which is all in everyday terms. And I've used that as my step 11, and it's been incredible to do something that has meaning to me, because before it was all about, well, I want to get this and I want to get that. And today I have a wonderful home life. I'm married to a wonderful guy that, some of you know. And as I say, I don't live in a war zone, but most importantly, I've got happy sobriety, and I'm so blessed and grateful for that. And I know I use the words blessed and grateful, but that this, this program from Dr. Bill and Bob, Dr. Bob and Bill, was created by divine intervention, I believe, because how else could this have come about? Because thousands, millions died before this. And just the thing I want to end on is, in the basic text, it said, I've been brought up to believe in God, but I know that until I found this AA program, I had never found or known faith in the reality of God, the reality of his power that is now with me in everything I do. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I would now like to introduce today's final speaker, Matthew.
Thanks, Andy. Yeah, my name's Matt. I'm an alcoholic. Hi, Matt. And I'm absolutely delighted to be here. And yeah, my home group is the Road to Recovery group in Sydney, Australia. Meets on Friday night. And you're all welcome to come. And it's been a bit nerve-wracking being here in front of so many people. And but my sponsor gave me some really good advice that is great. That whenever you get an opportunity to share, just carry AA's message to the still suffering alcoholic. And I can do that because it's my experience that this program works. It's powerful. It's real. And the evidence is it's happened to me. I'm sober today, in my 10th year of sobriety, and I'm free from that bondage of self. And not only has it happened to me, but I've seen it work in other people. I've seen it just change people's lives, and it really is truly remarkable to be a part of this. And for that, I thank you guys, especially the Road to Recovery group, my sponsor, and for all the work that you're doing today and have done, because, through an amazing series of events, just that message of recovery has been passed from one alcoholic to another all around the world. And, just a few hours ago, there were 20 alcoholics in my home group who were recovered, and united in that, carrying the message, and just enjoying life. And it's a beautiful thing, because for that brief moment, that one night, there are, 20 people who aren't drink driving, on the streets of Sydney. There's 20 people who aren't smashing up a pub and getting into fights, or, just 20 people who aren't smashing up the house. And it's beautiful, man. It brings a tear to my eye, and seeing that happening here as well, it's great all around the world. And, so on behalf of all the guys in Sydney, thank you as well. So, and if my mum was here, she'd say thank you too as well, cause not only, am I sober, but, my mum today, she can go to sleep knowing that although I'm on the other side of the world, she's not going to get that phone call from the cops saying, we found Matt, he jumped in front of a train, or, my sister will thank you too, she knows I'm, not going to be coming around and stealing alcohol and stuff from her house. And, my brother, he's not going to have to come and visit his loser older brother in rehab and give him a carton of smokes, and I'll borrow some more money off him. And so it's great, mate. Not only is it working in my life, but the lives of everyone who I come into contact with, it's beautiful. This is an amazing program. Alcoholics Anonymous is awesome, and it's really good news that there is a solution, there is a way out, and the only effort required is just to follow a few simple rules. The 12-step program of recovery is outlined in the big book, and like I heard tonight from the previous speakers, if you do what we do, you will get the same result. This never fails. This is awesome, powerful stuff. But if you're anything like me, when I first came into AA, it didn't really strike me as good news when I first heard that, this is what I had to do to recover. But, I was soon to get to that place where there was nothing left for me. Because when I first came here, I couldn't see that alcohol was my problem, or, to be in a situation where I couldn't drink, like you're saying that I had to stay, like I can't drink anymore, I couldn't accept that, because for me, alcohol, although it was causing me all those problems, it was just amazing stuff, and even, that bond I had with alcohol, started off that very first time I got drunk, being about, 15 years old, and just being in a party with all these older people there, and, just went there like my usual self, just being shy and insecure and not really fitting in, not being able to talk to anyone, definitely not dancing, and, definitely not talk to many girls and stuff. But, just having a couple of drinks, it just, in an instant, it changed all of that, The big book describes it, wonderfully in that sense of ease and comfort that comes at once from taking a few drinks. And that happened that very first time. And that effect was to change my life, really, because it just, for the first time, I felt alive. I felt that this is awesome. This is how I want to be. This has got the power for me to feel good. And that, that later that night, I was dancing. I was jumping off the roof into the swimming pool. I was best friends with all the older, cooler guys at school. And just having a great night. It was great stuff. It just changed my life. But something even, happened that very first night that I didn't even worry about at the time. But what I know today, that I experienced that phenomenon of craving, from that very first time I drank. Because after, the party had finished, everyone gone home, I was still there, and I wanted more to drink. And I remember asking, some of the guys, has anyone got any more beers? And he was like, no, man, we're out. And I remember going to the kitchen and, searching through the kitchen pantry, and I found some cooking brandy up the back, and I sat down in the kitchen. I turned the light off because I didn't want anyone to see, and I just began throwing down these shots with, blocking my nose, but just cooking brandy, because I just wanted to see, how far can I take this? I just wasn't satisfied. There's always just one more, you just get that one more, and that's where we want to, it was crazy. But, from that moment on, I guess things worked out pretty well, with alcohol. Now I could do some pretty cool stuff, and, I did amazing things. I went to places I could never have gone to sober. I did things that were just out of my reach sober, but now I could just do all this cool stuff. But, really I was, the Bill describes it as, I was just forged that boomerang that would one day, come back and all but cut me to pieces, I just got progressively sicker and so deluded, and just, it was just crazy. And, my drinking just went out of control. There were times where, I'd even know that my drinking's not good and I've got to cut back, and, and I'd try and control it. There were times where I'd kind of, man, this is getting out of control. So what I would do is, I'd be working in a bar in the city, and one of the things, we'd have staff drinks after work, and I'd always get absolutely smashed, and I wouldn't be able to get home till, late. And so I thought, well, what I'll do, right, is I'll drive the car to work. That way I can only have 2 drinks, because you can only have 2 drinks and then you're over the limit. That's my control plan. And it's, for anyone else, that would probably make sense. And so I'd do that. I'd drive to work, and after work I'd stay and have 2 drinks and say, look, I've got to go. I've got the car. So I'd drive home, but just when I'm getting home, the last pub, I think, I'll just stop there and I'll just have one more drink, because I've probably sobered up a little bit now, and that means I could have one more drink. And so I'd go to the pub and I'd have that drink, and And I think, oh man, that phenomenon of cravings kicking in, and there's no way I'm stopping now, So I kind of think, well, it was always really late at night. It'd be like, 1 or 2 in the morning and all the bottle shops are closed. But now I've had 3 beers and I've got to get drunk, but I've got the car. So what I think, okay, well, I'll go and I'll just buy some beers at the bar, right? And they'd have to take the tops off, and I'd put them down my shirt, and then I'd walk out past the bouncers and into my car, and then I'd start filling up the car with like open beer bottles, right? And so I'd end up getting about eight beer bottles, and I'd put them in the pocket behind the seats and in the drink holders, and I'd be holding them in my legs, and then I'd be driving home with the car just full of all these open bottles, knowing that I've just got to get this alcohol home to finish the job, and it was crazy, and that's just insane. For me, trying to control my drinking, it ends up just so out of control. It's outrageous. And there are other times when I come home and just the drinking, like I'll be living with my sister, and when you come home and you're not quite drunk enough, but the bottle shop's closed, and you're sitting there in my bedroom just going, man, I need some more alcohol. And then I'd know that my sister's got some alcohol in her room. She had this bottle of port that she got for her 21st birthday. I'm sitting in this room, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm not quite drunk enough, and there's a bottle of port in the next room. And so I go in, to her room and sneak in and grab the alcohol and sneak out and be all quiet. And I just down that just so I can get to sleep. And the next day when she'd go off to work, I'd fill it up with water and put it back in there so she wouldn't know that, anything would happen. And then when the next paycheck would come in, I'd go and buy 2 bottles of port and fill her bottle of port up with port and then put it back. And crazy. And I used to do this like all the time, just constantly drinking this port. And then one night I remember I came home, I did it again, and I went in, I snuck it through and picked out this bottle of port and got it back to my room and sat down and, now I know I'm going to be able to get to sleep, and I'm just pouring that glass out of port, and it was water, and it just backfired on me so badly. And I don't know. That's just not normal stuff. But I guess, I started to, my life just fell apart, the depression, the anxiety, and, I couldn't hold down jobs, and, relationships were just falling apart. And, I ended up, after one particular night, just getting into a lot of trouble and smashing up the house, and the police called and the ambulances came round, and I got taken off to the mental hospital and was really presented with the reality of my situation, that look what drinking's doing to me. You could kind of see it. I was covered in blood, and my mum's distraught, and I had time to reflect that this is pretty serious stuff. And then the doctor said, mate, you've got to stop drinking. And okay, if drinking's my problem, then I'll just stop. I'll just cut it out. If the reason my life's so bad, I'm just going to stop drinking. And I made a promise there to myself. I promised my mum. I promised the doctors there. That's it. I'm through. And I meant it. With every ounce of that's it, man. I can't put up this stuff anymore. And but then just the same thing would always happen. It'd be after I'd make that decision, my mind would just begin to change. The things would start to go my way again. Like I remember the doctor prescribed me some Valium. I'm like, oh yeah, this isn't too bad. And I got a new girlfriend in the rehab, so it's like, oh yeah, things. I'm looking up a bit. And then the doctor gave me a note from the Centrelink office that I could get money for free. I didn't have to work anymore, sickness benefits. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is pretty cool. I think I've got this back together. And in such a short period of time, my ego's revived, and I'm back. In fact, it's never been this good before. I'm getting free drugs, free money, and I've got a girlfriend. What exactly is the problem here again? I could not see just how much trouble I was in. I didn't grasp the severity of it. It was just a little bit of a game. And but I remember leaving that hospital, and on the way home to my sister's place, who I'd promised that I would not drink on the condition that, I could stay at her house. She'd help me get back on my feet. The only requirement, just don't drink. And I said, yeah, no worries, I'm not drinking anymore. But on the way home, I went to the pub and just started playing the poker machines. I had some time to kill before the train came. And just like that, the thought comes, well, why don't we just have a beer? You've got half an hour till the train comes. You've only got time for one anyway. So, and that today I know is the real essence of my problem. It's in that moment before that first drink, that it's a strange mental blank spot. And I don't have a defense against that first drink. It's crazy, because a week ago, the most amazing carnage of my life. I'm sworn off it forever, Everybody's like, this is serious. A week later, whatever, I'll just have a drink. And that's what is just absolutely hopeless, is that my mind will just change and just talk me back into drinking again. And it was crazy. And I remember, it took me a long time to really see just how serious that was, but I went to counselors and psychologists and tried all this medication and went to all these rehabs. And, long story short, I remember, I'm about to leave my 5th rehab, and everyone, I'm ready to go a few days out, and they're all, pumping me up, psyching me up. Matt, you gotta stay sober, go out there and kick some goals. And had my relapse prevention workbook and had all my phone numbers of all my new best friends. We're all going to meet up and go to meetings, and And I had this counselor appointment lined up, and for the first time, I just saw through it all and just thought, no, I'm not looking forward to this at all. In fact, I'm absolutely terrified. I know that I've been in this situation before. It doesn't matter how serious I am or how many promises I make or how determined I am or how many workbooks or books that I'm hopeless. I'm going to leave this rehab and my mind is going to change. And it's just a matter of time. It's like maybe a week, maybe a couple of months, but my mind will just go to that point where I will start drinking again. And I saw that for the very first time. And it absolutely terrified me because I knew that there was nothing I could do about that, because I know I'm going to leave there and I'm going to suffer, and it's horrible. Sobriety for me is just, I can put up with it for a while, but eventually, I just get so restless and so irritable, so discontent, and I just can't relax, and everyone just pisses me off, and you just don't understand, just leave me alone, just back off, and I want out of there. It's a horrible place to be, the depression is just killing me, and anxiety is like, you know what I mean? And again, I get to that point, I get so worked up, and I hate myself. I'm just crippled with resentments. I'm just reliving all the failures of my past and all the bad stuff that's happened to me and all the people I hate. And I just yearn. I yearn to feel good. I yearn to get out from that and just to once again just relax and have some fun. And then there's nothing I can do to kickstart that. I can't. I've tried everything, and eventually I'll be so insane and so mad that my mind will just begin that insane dialogue that, what, maybe we could get it to work this time. Maybe if we just drink light beer, or maybe, right, what we'll do, right, we'll wait till 5 o'clock, or we'll just drink on the weekends, or, there'll be something that will just come up, and I may postpone it, but eventually I'll just give way and think, what, I don't care, man, because whatever's going to happen, man, I'll throw it all away for that crazy chance that this time I could once again control and enjoy my drinking, and that's insane, and that is so insane and so crazy, because for me, once I start to drink, there's nothing in it anymore. The party's over, man. It's just that phenomenon of craving. It's just straight to blackout, and straight to the drugs and the gambling, and I'm going to die, really. It's serious. Like, for me to drink again, there's nothing left, man. It's just death, suicide, death. That's it, over. And then, I remember I'm out of my rehab now, and I'm in AA, but this time was different. I was beaten this time. I had step 1. I didn't even know what it was, but I'd thrown in the towel, man. I was crushed, nothing left, and I didn't know what to do. And the only place for me to go was AA. But thank God, because that's, when I was in that point, that's when that message of hope was carried to me. When my ego was just smashed out away, just long enough for that inkling of hope to come through. But, it had been there the whole time. The 12-step program, it was presented to me for years, and I just didn't buy it. But when I was desperate and there's nowhere else to go, this was my only chance. But still, I was still so hesitant. I didn't want to do this, and I didn't want to ask anyone for help. I didn't want to take any inventory. I didn't want to make amends. I didn't even think I needed to make amends. People needed to make amends to me. Like, that could be a program I could do, but I just couldn't see how this could work. Like, why? But what sold me on accepting this spiritual way of life was you people. Was other alcoholics who had gone before me. And my sponsor, I remember him. It was just like a spotlight, clear as day. He got up and shared, and bang, for the first time, I identified with another alcoholic on such a deep level, because he was a guy who knew my experience through his own experience. He'd walked the walk. He drank like I drank, and he suffered like I had suffered, and he felt like I felt, and all of those drinking stories and all the attempts to stop drinking, all of that stuff, he'd done, and I was, my God, this guy's me. But he wasn't there anymore. He wasn't where he was on a different footing. He was sober. He was recovered. He was happy and free, and he was traveling around the world, and he was, easy in his own company, and he was having fun, and he was sober. And that was really good news, because that's what just gave me enough hope that if it could work for him, then maybe it could work for me too. And even more so, he was actively looking for people like me that night. He came straight up to me after the meeting, and he introduced himself and said, "How you going?" And no one had ever done that. I remember thinking, there's no way he wants to hang around such a loser like me. But he was there to hang around such a loser like me that night, And thank God he did, because he saved my life. He stretched out that hand of AA and said, welcome. And I asked him to be my sponsor, and that was probably the hardest thing I'd ever done. Because up until then, I'd never asked anyone for help. But he just inspired such confidence and trust in me that I'll give this a shot. And I just asked him, would you be my sponsor? And he said, are you willing to go to any lengths? And I had no idea what he meant. So I said yes, but it was just, we started taking daily actions, straight away, things like, was mentioned tonight, praying on my knees, asking for a clean and sober day, writing a gratitude list, phoning newcomers, getting stuck into service and reading a big book and all this stuff that I didn't think, was relevant or work, but he just said, just do it, just take these actions. And I did. And what can I say, from that moment, I was well and truly on the road to recovery. I began to recover from alcoholism, and what an amazing experience. And it was amazing. And in no time at all, I did my 3rd step prayer and straight to my 4th step. And thank God I had a good sponsor who was properly armed with facts about himself. He knew what it was to be an alcoholic, and more importantly, he knew how to recover, and he could shine that spotlight of truth on me when he showed me how to do a step 4, because I had no idea any of that stuff was going on in me, but bang, he just showed me like writing out inventory, and I remember him showing me some of his stuff. I'm like, oh my God, that is so sick and twisted, but he saved my life, because all of that crazy stuff that he'd done, he could share that with me and allow me to begin that process of recovery. So his past was his greatest asset, because that saved my life. And I think that is the coolest thing about AA, that, him sharing that allowed me to share it with him. And wow, the first time I wrote down all those resentments, and that was what was killing me, And I could see it from a totally different point of view. I said where I'd been wrong. I was full of pride or arrogance and self-pity, self-centeredness. I didn't think any of that stuff applied to me, but suddenly it all applies to me. And my God, the truth set me free. I could see what my problem was. And, as hard as it was, we went through it, and just my whole life, bang, flipped it up, upside down. And I remember sharing all that with my sponsor, my step 5, and he didn't call the cops or kick me out. He just said, "Matt, welcome to the human race." How cool is that? And from that moment on, man, I had that amazing spiritual experience, where all of that stuff I've been carrying around in me, the anger and hatred, and it was like black lead in my blood, heavy, and it just left. And then, over the next few days, it just flew away. And I remember for the first time, I stood in the sunlight of the Spirit, and I just, I can do this. I can live in this world sober. That feeling of the drink problem had just gone, just out of the ballpark, and it was just I was free, and that was a higher power in my life, the default setting, just all of that bad stuff cleared away, and I'm connected. And then from that moment, I just worked through the rest of the steps, and, just continue to take those actions today, and for the last 10 years, and it's put me in such good stead, and I've just grown up, and enjoyed all the amazing things of life. I got off the sickness benefits, would you believe? Stopped smoking, went back to uni, and then graduated top of the class and got a job in the industry I studied for. My sister asked me to babysit her kids, I hung out with my mum, and, I traveled the world, and, today I'm here in Munich from work. They sent me on an overseas European assignment, if they knew where I was 10 years ago, I don't think they'd be doing that now. But what a thrill, my life is just incredible today. But it's the same. I'm active already in the Munich Fellowship. I'm sponsoring Bday there and just getting stuck into it. It's great to be a part of it. And, it's just amazing. Today, I have a higher power in my life as a result of taking these actions that has completely transformed my whole way of thinking, my whole thought and attitude. It's entirely different. And the dark and musty past, all of the bad stuff I had done is now one of my greatest assets. Because I've had the privilege of sponsoring other people, taking them through the work. And I tell you what, that is an absolute thrill to be a part of that, to play a part in someone's recovery and see the lights come on in them, and to see them go through that process and go and make amends to their father and see their children back in their life, and then once again become useful, productive members of society. That's what a thrill. I mean, this is good stuff. That's what keeps me here, because not only do I have a great life, I just see it working around me, and it's a real thrill. And with a high power in my life, I feel okay. I feel, even though life's really tough sometimes, and relationships and, heartbreak and all of that, but I can get through it all, because I've got a sponsor and my commitments in my home group and my higher power. Because I know that deep down everything's going to be okay, no matter what. That's pretty cool, and I don't need to seek that escape from alcohol and drugs anymore, because it's just, I can see it for what it is. It's poison. It's nothing in it, That ease and comfort that alcohol kind of promised, I get that right here tonight, with a high power in my life. Just, everything's going to be all right. And so if you're new, welcome. This is, it's a great place to be. And if you've yet to find a solution to alcoholism, or even if you've been around and you're yet to, have that life beyond your wildest dreams and know what it is to be free, get stuck in, grab yourself a sponsor and get one tonight. And just start take their guidance, work these actions, follow those 12 steps out of that big book, and you'll be amazed. It's really good stuff. I'm absolutely delighted to be here. And Wayne, thanks for asking me to share. And I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Sobercast is ad-free, and we'd like your help in order to keep it that way. So if you'd like to help us be self-supporting by pledging $1 or $2 a month, visit Sobercast.com and look for the donate links. Thank you very much.